The only reason the extraterrestrial scouts were sent to Earth was to observe and report their species, which came from Earth was recognized as a possible resource hub by a technologically advanced region of the galaxy. During their extensive research, they hovered above a diversified biosphere and ample energy sources, which were uncommon. The sensors in the Earth's atmosphere examined the surface to determine the best areas for humans to land at night. Were dependable, habitual beings that were active during the day and rested at night, a purported weakness, became the cornerstone of their strategy. As they descended into the shadowy region of Earth, the scouts were astounded by the luminous networks of human civilizations were perceived as evidence of primitive progress because to the limited illumination from orbit. Species that are just beginning to learn about interstellar travel, yet their goal humans' rudimentary defenses were to be avoided in cities that prioritized secrecy. Could still be an annoyance, therefore they chose an area devoid of people that was characterized by thick forests and rolling hills distant from onlookers. Their landing craft executed the descent perfectly. Cloaked and silent, the group of 6 emerged their excitement and adjusted to the shadows of the treetops. They immediately dispersed around the hemisphere of Earth, each depending on extremely sensitive devices made to identify movement, heat fingerprints and chemical traces, the oxygen-rich air full of life, and an ecology ready for harvesting. But there's something about despite the rustling leaves, chirping insects, and eerie silence, the forest's stillness appeared strange, hovered just out of their line of sight. And their apparatus promptly recorded the local plant life clusters with mammal beings navigating a complex network of ecosystems and underbrush with remarkable flexibility. It appeared perfect for the aliens to thrive without human intervention. But their thermal sensors' warm spots that were indicative of life started to flicker on their displays and subsequently disappeared in a matter of seconds. The team corrected their equipment, blaming the irregularities on their own calibration mistakes. Their technology had never failed them before, so there was no reason to suspect differently. The atmosphere became thicker as they moved more into the forest because the thick canopy obscured even the smallest moonlight glints, forced them to depend entirely on their gear. One scout stopped when he sensed a slight, regular vibration beneath his feet that was almost inconspicuously. He looked about while he adjusted his visor with his lengthy fingers. Despite the fact that there was no record of earthquakes in the area, he whispered geological activity through his communicator. The first absence was subtle. A scout near the formation's back did not reply to a regular check-in, and the others anticipated that their comrade would be changing equipment or preoccupied with his analysis when they turned around, but instead they only a discarded sensor module, its case damaged as if it had been wrenched from its mount, was discovered on the forest floor. Taller and more armored than the rest, the leader downplayed the event and went back to formation. Despite the unpredictability of the human world, they continued on their journey. However, a sense of worry started to seep in as the shadows appeared to shift strangely, with objects blurring at the edge of their every sound. Even the rustle of leaves and the crack of a twig was amplified by vision. Another scout broke, and it appeared that their equipment, which was meant to minimize interference, was no longer able to retain clarity. Formation looking around, his report was brief, and he found movement. His voice abruptly ended, and darkness set in as the rest of the squad frantically their thermal scanners detected a weak heat signature tracing through the trees to find their missing comrade. But they realized it was dawning on them when they followed and discovered only claw-like markings carved into a nearby trunk. They weren't by themselves. The leader adjusted his suit's sensors to increase to his surprise. The readout showed an anomaly many times within its detection range. They were surrounded by heat signatures, but none of them remained in a consistent position. Instead, they shifted in unpredictable ways, showing the leader gave a fresh order and disappeared as if phasing across dimensions before returning to the landing spot. This was no longer just a reconnaissance expedition. There was a threat on the planet that required more analysis. The trees appeared to enclose them as they retraced their route. The air became colder, the shadows thicker, and the communication channels were filled with static. Each scout was now separated by the leader's sense of loneliness grew when he heard his own faint breathing, and it echoed quickly and strangely inside his helmet, as though the forest itself had turned against them one by one. The surviving scouts disappeared, leaving behind equipment that was frequently irreparably damaged, and the leader now stood with the last of his suit's energy left. He turned on an emergency beacon and sent out a distress signal. To the reaction to the orbiting mothership was prompt. But grim evacuation was not avoid and live as long as possible till it's able to heal without any other finally. He triggered his weapon systems, which included a number of plasma-based instruments that cast an eerie glow over the surrounding region. Brief glimpses of his enemies were visible in the light. They moved at human speed and blended their forms together perfectly. Given the circumstances, their attacks were planned to disable rather than kill the leader, who retaliated by his energy supplies were limited, and the creatures appeared to be unrelenting as the plasma bolt blazed through the night. The leader stumbled to his knees as the wilderness fell silent again, and his outfit once a. The last thing he saw was a cage that felt like the height of alien engineering. A figure emerged from the shadows, its humanoid form wrapped in a cloth that absorbed the light. His visor faded to black. It had a blade that was basic but strikingly different from the distress signal kept broadcasting despite the extraterrestrial invader's superior weaponry, but no one responded. The jungle was thick, and as the alien crew advanced, the darkness grew stronger. The task was a straightforward map, and they were cautious, using their sophisticated senses to investigate their surroundings. The region recognizes possible dangers and notifies the mother ship of their suits were made to adjust to the uneven terrain, which was full of obstacles like fallen branches and pebbles. Environs, making sure that no noise revealed their location. The area was rich in organic life, but no anomalies big enough to be dangerous were found. Heat signatures started to show up in their readings, flickered on their equipment, and then disappeared as fast as they appeared. Rapid shifts were detected by movement sensors, but they were unable to locate any close objects. Although other scouts expressed their concerns as the team pressed, the squad leader dismissed these as glitches. Subtle earth tremors were detected as the air seemed to change deeper, similar to footprints, but much too erratic to be those of any large animal. Their quick-thinking analytical minds tried to explain the happenings as natural occurrences. The initial indication of when a scout at the rear of the group reported a strange sound, a slight rustling that wasn't in time with the wind danger arose, caught his interest. And before he could look into it, the others turned to look for him as the contact was suddenly shut off. The squad reunited just moments earlier after mist sensors showed no signs of heat or activity where he had been standing, then moved carefully forward, creating tighter groupings to prevent additional losses. As they discovered that their equipment, which had never malfunctioned previously, was having trouble providing, rising unease started to spread. Trustworthy data, minor disruptions increased in frequency as they went along. Footsteps could be heard, but they were not distinct. Tree scrapes and indentations showed markings that indicated that someone had been observing them. These observations were recorded, but none of them could offer an immediate explanation. The scouts who had been educated for a systematic investigation started to doubt their views. The lack of obvious dangers and these unexplained occurrences increased their feeling of then. The group headed for higher ground in the hopes of improving their vantage point. Suddenly, their attention was split between looking around and keeping an eye out for their missing colleague. When a scout noticed a change in the canopy above Drew, they fired a warning shot at what seemed to be movement in the branches. The shot struck nothing, and there was a pause, but the tension was evident as they regrouped. More scouts started to doubt the veracity of their perceptions. Disappear. Every occurrence had a similar pattern: mysterious noises, broken equipment, and an abrupt futile attempts to follow up were unsuccessful, and any heat signatures disappeared. The woodland, which had been dead, suddenly felt alive as soon as they were discovered. The remaining scouts attempted to remain calm despite the invisible action. However, being a feeling unfamiliar to a species, dread started to seep into their ranks, causing their tactical organization to break. It took pride in its ability to use reason and control. The other team members initiated defense procedures and deployed energy. Self-defense shields. These shields were made to fend against attacks that were based on energy and force, but when the leader tried to speak with the mother, they provided minimal protection against an enemy they were unable to perceive. But interference distorted the signal. They received bits of their distress message, but no help arrived right away. The team was told to withdraw to their landing zone and remain there until evacuation could be completed. Arranged, the woodland appeared to change about them as they went back. Their navigational aids, which depended on accurate planetary mapping, were modified by the routes they had previously traveled, showed irregularities in the landscape and acknowledged that the surroundings could be against them, increased the level of uncertainty by moving more quickly and forgoing thorough scans. The focus had moved from exploration to escape in favor of survival. The leader observed trends, and the disruptions appeared to be aware of their vulnerabilities. Attacks happened when they were at their most vulnerable, distracted, alone, or in a strange place. This degree of intelligence was implied by strategic thinking, but no biological forms with such capacities had been found, that the likelihood of running into an unidentified enemy increased. As time went on, the team's attention shifted to reorganizing and identifying a position they could defend. In an attempt to secure the area for extraction, they arrived at a clearing close to their landing spot. The clearing offered a restricted awareness of their surroundings, which decreased the likelihood of an ambush. The leader-organized defensive tactics scouts are positioned to briefly monitor every potential entry point. When there was silence, the group started to think they had gotten away from whatever was after their gear, returned to regular operations, and the tension appeared to subside somewhat. The respite was brief, as there was an abrupt spike in their scanners showed movement, with several heat signatures quickly convergent on their position. Were unpredictable, coming and going too fast to follow before they could react. The initial blow came, and when an invisible force broke through the outer barrier and disabled one of the scouts, the team fired energy blasts in retaliation. The guns illuminated the night as they moved into the nearby forests, but nothing was seen. The attacks kept becoming worse. With accuracy, the enemies took advantage of the scouts' defensive tactics, attacking from blind locations and fleeing before shields flickered and failed under the relentless onslaught panic that ensued as the counterattacks could land their energy. The remaining members found it difficult to stay united, despite the advanced weapons they were prepared for. The leader realized that open warfare was not appropriate for this kind of engagement. Given the pointlessness of their position, he gave a final order and turned on a beacon to indicate their location, for the beacon sent out a pulse that momentarily alerted the mothership to the danger they were facing. Lighted the clearing, giving a brief view of their assailants. The humanoid figures moved with an artificial smoothness that blended Li's movements with the shadows, thoughtful, effective, and totally committed to eliminating the scouts. The environment returned to darkness as the beacon's light faded, leaving the surviving squad in the dark. Members were overpowered, and their defenses were surgically removed. The leader's final recording before his equipment malfunctioned was the terrifying insight that they had been outwitted the adversary, who had not only foreseen their approach but also exploited the darkness to their advantage. Giving the team left the mothership with the extraterrestrial technology that was no longer in use. The warning they sent was evident despite the fragmentary facts and unresolved questions. There was something out there that was unlike anything they had ever seen, and Earth's night was far from safe. Prior to the survivors sending information about the unexplained losses and the trends to the mothership, though fragmentary, the data they saw during their expedition showed a calculated. The concept of intelligent resistance was rejected by hostile extraterrestrial strategists, who attributed the occurrence of faulty team deployment decisions or the existence of archaic nocturnal predators. Their research found that the absence of strong visual evidence pointed to natural events instead of an organized defense effort. The idea that people on Earth could plan such a targeted assault was unthinkable to them. Humans were viewed as a young, technologically underdeveloped species, and this overconfidence fueled their inability to create strategies that would outperform advanced alien technology. Choice to send in reinforcements, their strategy was simple and outperformed the alleged superior in numbers and technology. The Predator's reinforcements had better weapons and more robust shields. With sophisticated tracking tools made to fend against unforeseen dangers without the aliens realizing it, humanity had not overlooked the Shadowhunter, and a secret Earth defense unit had been notified. As soon as the extraterrestrial craft reached the atmosphere with the mission of destroying alien threats, while the Shadowhunters operated in complete obscurity to preserve Earth's secrecy. Only a few world leaders were aware of their existence. Years of training had sharpened their abilities. Combining human creativity with cutting-edge technology created especially to combat sophisticated enemies, the Shadowhunter, who used Earth's varied surroundings to specialize in guerrilla warfare, they had developed methods to interfere with even the most advanced sensors. Taking advantage of their terrain expertise to keep their system undetectable to any intruders, while included sound dampening and concealing technologies that may neutralize alien sounds, notwithstanding their apparent primitiveness. Tracking techniques. Their instruction focused on taking advantage of their adversaries' psychological vulnerabilities, including dependency on recurring trends or a lack of faith in their technological superiority. With precision and assurance that they could eliminate the threat they posed, reinforcements fell to Earth, drones to examine the forest, each having sensors that can identify even the smallest irregularities in the information collected. Depicted an uneven landscape with no obvious indications of hostile forces supported by these discovering that the aliens established a base to coordinate their activities farther into the forest. The shadow. Hunters purposefully keep an eye on these movements, giving the reinforcements a false sense of security. Found weaknesses in their development and vulnerabilities in their deployment. By observing patterns in their technology, the aliens' reliance on tight forms and centralized communication offered chances for disturbance. The hunters got ready for an assault. Making sure that every move would increase confusion and reduce the extraterrestrial strategist misjudged the difficulty of their opposition. The underlying premise of their analysis was that Earth's defenses were disorganized. They were unable to appreciate the shadow hunters' well-coordinated efforts and their ability to function as a cohesive team. To break down their plan piece by piece, they deliberately targeted important components of the extraterrestrial force. The disruptions that the first team Heat encountered started to affect the reinforcements. Drones reported inconsistent data, with some claiming that signs would emerge and disappear without explanation. Disabled before sending important data, these occurrences were written off as interference from the surroundings, and the aliens advanced with the assurance that their superior numbers would guarantee the shadow hunters' triumph. Their initial electromagnetic attack on the alien communications center, the aliens were forced to rely on backup systems after pulses caused the central network to go down, which caused confusion. The hunters took advantage of the disarray among the ranks, which caused gaps in their formation, and launched a series of accurate before withdrawing into the shadows. Strikes were used to destroy lesser troops, with each hit being planned to maximize as the aliens frantically regrouped. They started to spot patterns while minimizing their own exposure. Throughout the strikes, the assailants' movements revealed a profound comprehension of foreign strategies. This insight led to a reevaluation of their circumstances for the first time. The aliens thought about the prospect that they may be up against a well-organized and intellectual opposition. This recognition, nevertheless, came too late, and the shadow hunters stepped up their efforts by using psychological seeking to weaken the extraterrestrial powers. They altered the surroundings, leveraging the aliens' reliance on EXP to create the appearance of greater numbers and more serious threats technology, making their sophisticated systems worthless, and the aliens ended itself enmeshed in a war. They were caught off guard by their superior firepower and sophisticated equipment, which the ingenuity proved ineffectual. Despite their advantages, the reinforcements started to suffer from the flexibility and skill of their human opponents. Substantial losses, as the shadow hunters' specialized weapons were able to get past their shields. Once considered a neutral factor, the terrain's deficiencies in their energy fields turned into a powerful ally as the hunters exploited the environment to their advantage by blending with the vegetation. Every human movement was difficult. As the alien deaths increased with each strike, the strict hierarchy of their command system broke down. The hunters' targeting of leadership figures turned what had once been a strength into a liability. The extraterrestrial forces' attempts at retaliation became more disorganized in the absence of clear direction. Were given well-considered answers, which further discouraged the soldiers under the shadow hunters' constant harassment, pushed the extraterrestrials into a defensive stance, sacrificing their mission goals in favor of survival. The aliens changed their plan of action after realizing they had misjudged Earth's defenses, sent messages to the mothership requesting further assistance, stressing the necessity of sophisticated defenses. Against an adversary that could destroy their present capabilities, the mothership was hesitant to a full-scale invasion would need substantial resources and support, according to mounting evidence of human resistance. Could put their species at higher risk as the reinforcements found it difficult to hold their position in the shadow. Hunters got ready for the next stage of their mission after eliminating the alien menace on the ground, but the mothership's observation of the events from orbit was the bigger obstacle. The hunters understood that in order to ensure Earth's survival, their activities would need to make it abundantly evident that Earth was not a target. Be taken lightly. They started preparing for the last conflict while being fully conscious of the risks involved. Shadow hunters intensified their operations and launched a concerted effort to target the extraterrestrial reinforcements. Methodically, their approach was to destroy the alien forces by combining stealth accuracy and constant disruption. Every action was planned to take advantage of the aliens' weaknesses, guaranteeing that every action helped to erode their defenses and boost the spirits of the extraterrestrial reinforcements. Albeit technologically sophisticated, mostly relied on centralized systems for navigation, communication. The shadow hunters prioritized attacks on these systems after identifying this dependency through coordination. They interfered with the aliens' capacity to communicate by employing electromagnetic pulses and signal jamming technologies. As a result, there was a great deal of uncertainty among the alien ranks, which forced them into haphazard groups susceptible to more attacks. The disturbance spread to the hunters used monitoring and surveillance technologies, as well as decoys and fake signals, to trick the aliens into the appearance of several human forces occupying the area. This strategy tricked the aliens' attention, leading them to ineffectively use resources in an effort to mitigate the psychological effects of this perceived threat. Plan was important since the aliens started to doubt their comprehension of the enemy's capabilities. The physical attacks of the Shadowhunter were almost as successful against small, highly mobile units that targeted additional resources, including weapon depots, energy generators, and supply caches. Attacks were planned to reduce the aliens' operating capability, making it impossible for them to fight for extended periods of time. Every attack was carried out precisely to reduce exposure and make sure the hunters could flee before. When reinforcements arrived, the aliens were more exposed and confused due to the cumulative effect of these hits. The hunters used their environmental knowledge in addition to direct attacks to keep the upper hand. Since the thick woodlands offered natural cover, they were able to stay hidden while keeping an eye on the activities of the aliens. They used the terrain to create ambush places and traps, thus impairing the aliens' capacity for efficient movement. Unaccustomed to Earth's ecosystems, they were severely disadvantaged by their advanced equipment's inability to adjust. The hunters also took advantage of the aliens' dependence on energy-based resources due to the dynamic and unpredictable environment. Reflective and energy-absorbing materials were used in their weapons, making many of the alien strikes ineffective. In addition to providing the hunters with protection, this innovation allowed them to use the aliens' tears against them by rescuing alien technology. They learned about its flaws and used that information to create defenses that made things even more favorable for them, and as the battle went on, the Shadowhunters stepped up their efforts. Using psychological warfare to demoralize the alien forces became crucial. As part of their plan, they employed sound-based techniques to give the appearance of a constant danger, enhancing the aliens' paranoia and dread by influencing their perception of. They instilled a sense of unavoidable danger in both space and time, making the aliens always vigilant, and the aliens tried to adjust to their fatigue by increasing the number of drones and bolstering their defenses. But these defenses weren't enough to withstand the hunters' unwavering inventiveness, and the drones efficient in open areas but found it difficult to go through the forest, where the hunters employed camouflage and natural barriers to avoid notice. The fortified positions intended to fend off frontal attacks were exposed. The success of the Shadowhunter was due to flanking maneuvers and infiltration strategies. Even though they faced difficulties, the aliens showed incredible adaptation and resilience. The hunters had to be on guard at all times to dodge their advanced weapons, which constituted a serious threat. Victims, the battle put their stamina to the test, forcing them to strike a balance between ferocity and caution in order to keep their advantage while acknowledging the growing threat posed by the aliens. Their most cutting-edge units, outfitted with improved sensors and experimental weapons, demonstrated a strong obstacle that forced the Shadowhunters to modify their strategy. In response, the hunters concentrated on precise attacks that use overwhelming force to destroy these advanced units before they have a chance to obtain traction, even if it took careful planning and execution that demonstrated the hunters' expertise and discipline. The turning point was reached when the Shadowhunters learned by intercepting transmissions. They discovered a crucial weakness in the aliens' command structure, place where the hunters would coordinate reinforcements to eliminate the alien field commander. Initiated a high-risk operation to target this person, using all of their available strategies to guarantee success. Mission shown their ability to use precise and covert tactics to accomplish their goal, without suffering severe losses and having their command structure undermined. When the extraterrestrial reinforcements tried to reassemble, they encountered relentless opposition from the Shadowhunters, who took advantage of every chance to destroy their activities. And the remaining alien disoriented and disheartened, the soldiers started to withdraw towards their landing location. Despite the enormous pushback, the Shadowhunters persisted in pursuing their mission objectives. The aliens to make sure they were no longer a threat, and their pursuit was planned to apply as much pressure as possible. The aliens are now completely aware of the hunters' capabilities while lowering the risk. Their sophisticated technology was unable to overcome the unwavering human resistance since they were only concerned with survival. The alien reinforcements were successfully neutralized at the end of the battle, and their advanced equipment was in place. their forces were dispersed and rendered unusable, leaving only a few that could not conduct any more operations in the shadow. Hunters had won a resounding victory, proving the potency of their tactics, and the fortitude of this stage of the battle strengthened the Shadow Hunters' conviction that humanity can overcome alien dangers. In addition to protecting Earth, their acts had sent a strong warning to any possible enemies. Humanity was ready to protect its homeland with all available means, defeating even the most sophisticated. Adversaries, the hunters went back to their camp prepared to face the next obstacle, understanding that the fight for Earth's safety was far from assured. And the battle's last phase started when the alien mothership sent its last-ditch attempt by the majority of elite forces to save the mission. These units were outfitted with unmatched technology intended to combat unidentified dangers and insurgency. The aliens thought by overcoming the challenges presented by the robust human, this deployment would ultimately secure their goals. Troops. This choice was motivated by both desperation and need, as the invaders' reputation was in danger of being damaged throughout the galaxy by evidence of Earth's strong defenses. Hunters who were aware of this increase turned their attention to capturing and eliminating the arriving soldiers. Plan depended on keeping up the momentum from their past victories to guarantee the fresh round of reinforcements. Unable to unite their forces, the hunters used their vast network of intelligence to forecast that these elite units' landing zones are set up with ambushes and traps to impede their preparation and arrival. Considered a crucial component of their strategy of dominating the battlefield and setting the conditions of engagement, the elite alien forces signified a major battle escalation. By using end autonomous command capabilities, these units were able to reduce their reliance on centralized systems. Their tactical awareness and flexibility were a special challenge that the Shadow Hunters had to perfect. The Hunters responded by emphasizing speed and unpredictability in their techniques, making sure that their actions could not be predicted or successfully repelled. And the battle grew more intense when the elite forces used advanced ways to counteract the cloaking technology used by Shadow Hunter tactics. Improved weapons and energy dispersal shields were employed to offset the Hunters' reliance on stealth, and despite these developments, the Hunters swiftly adjusted to deception, recognizing flaws in the alien tactics and precisely taking advantage of their capacity for innovation under duress proved crucial in enabling them to keep their edge, even while facing a rival with superior technology. One of the size of the alien deployment that the elite units managed was one of the Shadow Hunters' biggest obstacles. Teams, each of which could overpower conventional defenses, the Hunters lessened this threat by dividing their forces into more mobile, smaller units that were tasked with isolating by utilizing hit and run strategies to eliminate individual alien units in order to reduce their exposure. The efficacy of this strategy emphasized the value of adaptability and creativity in asymmetric warfare against elite alien forces, even while their talents found it difficult to adjust to the Shadow Hunters' unusual techniques, which humans could control. Their surroundings, along with their proficiency in psychological warfare, produced a tense and, however, the extraterrestrials used to face-to-face interactions were outwitted at every opportunity. Despite its might, sophisticated technology was unable to offset the Hunters' tactical advantages. The pivotal moment in this phase, given their deep familiarity with the region, was when the Shadow Hunters launched a coordinated attack on the remaining support infrastructure of the aliens. By focusing on communication networks and supply lines, the Hunters methodically disassembled the energy sources and relays. This tactic, which was the cornerstone of the extraterrestrial mission, not only disturbed the aliens' capacity to maintain their troops, but also pushed them into more precarious situations, making the effects of the Because of Hunters' prior achievements, the alien leadership structure realized that their position was unsustainable, sought to reorganize for a last attack with the goal of obtaining a definitive. The Shadow Hunters were expecting this maneuver, a win that would allow them to salvage their objective and recover their standing. They set up a trap by taking advantage of the aliens' desperation and the terrain, as well as their superior knowledge of alien strategies, to construct a situation that would guarantee the invaders' victory. Over the intensity and strategic sophistication of the encounter demonstrated that the aliens were now completely aware of the Hunters' capabilities, looked to maximize the impact of their remaining assets. Thus, the Shadow Hunters turned their attention on taking advantage of every flaw in the alien strategy. The combat was characterized by precision rather than overwhelming force, and the human defenders' inventiveness. Each action was planned out and every resource was used, designed to guarantee victory. The result of this conflict was definitive. The alien armies suffered because they were unable to defeat the Shadowhunters' unwavering inventiveness and will. Devastating losses, forcing their remaining soldiers to flee and abandon their goals and abandoning a sizable amount of their equipment and technology. This retreat was the successful conclusion of the extraterrestrial operation, is evidence of the human defenders' adaptability and tenacity. An alien mothership watching the action from orbit had to make a crucial choice. They had little options after losing their ground forces and failing to secure their objectives. Given Earth's defenders' proven capability, a full-scale invasion was judged impossible. The mothership started a withdrawal by sending a final report emphasizing the need for prudence in dealing with after eliminating the immediate threat. Humanity's Shadowhunters redirected their focus to protecting the remains of the alien organization, and preserving alien technology became crucial, offering priceless insights on their strengths and weaknesses. This procedure not only improved the hunters' comprehension of alien dangers, but also strengthened their readiness for any future interactions that may arise. The conflict's aftermath brought to light a number of important lessons for all parties, and for the aliens it served as a glaring warning about the risks of underestimating a competitor that appears to be less skilled due to their reliance on technology, while conventional tactics had not been enough to counteract human forces' flexibility and inventiveness. For the battle with Shadowhunters reinforced the value of being alert, prepared, and creative under pressure. The Shadowhunters' triumph sent a strong message to the galaxy that Earth is not an easy place to live. The target had proven that it could protect itself against a highly skilled adversary. Despite its subtlety, this message was likely to have an impact on other alien species' strategic choices. Preventing further encroachments and reiterating the necessity of using prudence when handling humanity as the Shadowhunters resumed their efforts, but they were still keenly aware of the difficulties the war would present, had demonstrated their powers while also highlighting the dangers that extraterrestrial forces could pose to their quest, remained committed to protecting Earth and guaranteeing its position within the larger galactic environment. The events of this clash would provide as a basis for subsequent tactics, demonstrating the tenacity and human ingenuity in the face of hardship.